A fraud claim, $50,000, and a filing made on the very last day possible. Jason Bolonsky, 75, insisted a business account had been closed fraudulently. But when investigators asked him to sign the bank's fraud affidavit, he refused. That was the first clue. What followed uncovered a bizarre scheme involving a dead business owner, a contested will, a failed court battle, and an attempted end run around the legal system. This is Fraud in a Moment, and the truth starts now. The Last Day Heist, the $50,000 frame and battle over a dead man's business. It began on the very last day a fraud claim could be filed. A business account worth approximately $50,000 had been closed months earlier. Now, at the final possible moment, a claim arrived alleging that the account had been liquidated fraudulently. At the center of the claim was Jason Bolonsky, 75, a senior citizen who insisted that something improper had happened. At first glance, it appeared to be a straightforward investigation, but almost immediately, something felt wrong. The bank requested that the claimant sign a standard fraud affidavit. Most legitimate victims do so without hesitation. After all, if fraud has truly occurred, the affidavit helps establish the facts and begin the recovery process. But Mr. Bolonsky refused, not because he didn't understand the document, not because he needed legal advice. He refused because of one specific clause. The affidavit stated that if someone knowingly filed a false fraud claim, the bank could pursue legal action against that person. The moment that clause was mentioned, Jason Bolonsky backed away, and that set off alarms. Investigators began digging deeper, and then another unusual detail emerged. The withdrawal documentation associated with the account wasn't following the pattern normally seen in a typical fraud investigation. Something about the paperwork suggested there was a much bigger story hiding beneath the surface. The branch was contacted. Boxes of records weren't needed. The branch already had them. Soon, a stack of documents began arriving. Legal filings, court orders, internal notes, attorney approvals, account records, and documentation stretching back months. Piece by piece, the truth began to emerge. The business account belonged to a sole proprietor, an elderly owner who had died. But before passing away, he had executed a will, and that will clearly directed where the assets would go. After the death, family members presented the appropriate legal documentation to the bank. The bank reviewed the court orders. Attorneys examined the paperwork. The bank's own legal counsel approved the transaction. Only then was the account liquidated. Everything had been performed legally, documented, properly authorized. So why was a claim suddenly appearing on the very last day? Because former business partners of the deceased owner had challenged the will, believing they were entitled to the money. They took the family to court and lost. The matter appeared settled, but somebody wasn't willing to accept the outcome. And unable to win through the legal system, the former partners tried a different path, challenging the banking transaction itself. A fraud claim could potentially trigger investigations, delays, holds, and complications. And if nobody remembered the details, if nobody reviewed the records, if nobody questioned the story, perhaps $50,000 could somehow be pulled back into dispute. The strategy depended on something remarkably simple, that others might forget, that the bank would treat the claim as routine, that old records wouldn't be reviewed, that the passage of time would bury the truth. Fraud investigations rely on facts and leave paper trails. The investigator remembered seeing unusual details. The branch remembered handling the account. Documentation remained exactly where it had always been. Most importantly, the paperwork told a story that could not be changed. Court orders, attorney approvals, bank records, legal authorizations, every document pointed to the same conclusion. The account closure had been legitimate. The fraud claim was not. In the end, the claim collapsed beneath the weight of the evidence, with Jason Bolonsky at the center of the dispute, making him a pawn in a high-stakes fight over a dead man's legacy. The scammers, or manipulators behind the effort, made several miscalculations. They believed authority could be challenged with accusations. They believed paperwork would be forgotten. They believed waiting until the last moment would prevent scrutiny. And they believed nobody would connect the dots. In the end, the fraud failed, not because the scheme was poorly planned, but because someone took the time to ask questions, review records, and follow the evidence where it led. And sometimes that's all it takes to stop a fraud before history gets rewritten. What did we learn from this story? 1. Fraud isn't limited to stolen credit cards and hacked accounts. It can hide inside legal disputes and official paperwork. 2. Be cautious when someone encourages you to file a fraud claim that primarily benefits another person. 3. Last-minute deadlines are often used to create pressure and reduce scrutiny. 4. Legitimate investigations depend on documentation, facts, and evidence, not accusations. 5. If someone refuses to sign a sworn statement supporting their claim, that may be a significant warning sign. 6. Family estates and inherited assets are common targets for fraud after death. 7. Good records, court documents, and proper documentation are often the strongest defenses against fraud. A last-minute claim, a dead man's business, and a desperate attempt to turn a legal defeat into a financial victory. This scheme relied on confusion, delay, and the hope that nobody would remember what really happened. Fortunately, the records told the truth. This has been Fraud in a Moment, where we expose the schemes hiding in plain sight and give you the tools to protect what's yours. Until next time, stay alert, stay steady, and remember, when old claims reappear and the facts seem unclear, trust the records you keep and the truth will stay near.